remember, push live stream. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Full Moon Sangha. My name is Peter Bolland. Welcome to the folks in the room. We got a few folks here while the lightning flashes outside. Hi to all of you on the live stream from wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very grateful that you're here with us. This is our once monthly, hour-long guided meditation session divided up into, roughly 3 sections. We'll have a few things to say here at the top. We'll get started on that in a minute. And then after that, we'll go into a body scan, a way of slowing down from all of the busyness that we've all been engaged in today and this week and this month and this year and this decade. Because it's really difficult to go from 100 miles an hour to meditation. Maybe that's one of the challenges we have at home, is that we go from our busy to-do list and then we sit down and go, why can't I meditate? Because everything is still racing. So what I want to do is slow it all down with you, and that's that middle section. We'll get to that. I'll sit down, we'll move through and let a lot of the tension go. And then thirdly, we'll move into a time of meditation. And what we practice here in Full Moon Sangha is just sort of a grab bag of various techniques. Some of it's from the Zen tradition, some of it's from the Vipassana tradition, some of it's a little visualization, and then some of it's moving into deep, imageless, depth meditation. So we'll sort all that out as we go through the hour, and we'll use a couple of things. This is the house bowl right here. We'll use that to come out of our meditation, and I brought this bowl with me. This is called a full moon bowl. It has a really beautiful, actually 3-tone chord that it plays that I just love, and I always bring it with me whenever I lead a meditation. So we'll use both of those a little bit later as well. I have my phone because I have some notes on here. I want to keep track where I am. I rescued a mouse today. Wasn't really planning on that, but it is in worldwide Christianity the feast of Saint Patrick, the feast of Saint Francis Day. So all of our Roman Catholic brothers and sisters and people who participate in the Anglican communion, our Episcopalian friends, other Christian groups all over the world, today is a day dedicated to the great Saint Francis, who lived many, many hundreds of years ago. And as you know, maybe you even have a sculpture of him in your garden. He's the guy with the little bird on his finger. But there's much more to Saint Francis than that, isn't there? He is the namesake of the Franciscan order, one of the most widely dispersed Roman Catholic orders on the planet. And one of the, I won't go into a long treatise on the significance of St. Francis. That's not what we're doing tonight. But I'm caught by him because he did something rather radical in the late Middle Ages. He introduced into the Catholic tradition the idea, well, I shouldn't say introduced, he shifted the emphasis away from clergy and the Vatican and liturgy and authority, and Francis brought it back down to the ground. The lost people, the simple life, and in fact, nature itself. And I would say he argued for a kind of universal incarnation. So I don't know how you feel about Christianity. Whenever I bring it up around people, there's some mild recoiling. Some people are allergic to Christianity. I've been a professor of comparative religion my whole career, and so I've gotten used to all of these different religions. I don't really have an emotional or allergic response to any of them anymore. But I get it. I meet students all the time who were, I guess I'll put it this way, exorcised from their faith family because of who they were. You know, when I work with my trans students or my LGBTQ students at Southwestern College or anywhere I teach, and they come from a devout Catholic family, many of them have had to leave home, have had to leave their families, and certainly aren't welcome in their churches. And that is painful. Bishop John Shelby Spong, who we just lost recently, called them Christians in exile. So there are many people who find themselves in one way or another kind of woven into the Christian or the Judeo-Christian tradition, but have found themselves cast out. Not because they left, but because they feel like they've been expelled. And so when I approach a figure like St. Francis through the lens of meditation, through the lens of Advaita Vedanta or Zen Buddhism or Taoism, I feel like those things begin to harmonize. Because what Francis brought to the Roman Catholic Church was pretty heretical and pretty radical. It was the idea, again, of universal incarnation. And there's a contemporary Christian teacher called Richard Rohr, who happens to be a Franciscan contemplative, has a place in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I get his newsletter every morning, Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, some of you know him. And today, of course, he was talking about St. Francis and this idea that most of Christianity has gotten it wrong, he said. And I want to explore this in our meditation tonight, not Christian theology, but this idea I'm about to get to. The idea that Jesus, again, through this Christian vocabulary, this Christian lens, that this idea that Jesus is the only incarnation of God is a mistaken reading. That's how Bishop Spong would put it. That's certainly how Friar Richard Rohr would put it. And instead, in Rohr's thinking, in that Franciscan's thinking, and I think in St. Francis's thinking also, what Jesus really means to Christians ought to be this, that everything that is incarnate, everything that has form, to use the Sanskrit kind of Hindu way of putting it, everything that has kaya or form is inseverably, permanently, timelessly united with the divine. That means everything is an incarnation of the holy. What if that's what St. Francis was really doing when he went into the garden, when he began to minister to animals, when he took vows? He grew up in the mansion. He was a rich kid. And he weaned himself away from that life, and he committed himself to a life of poverty, a vow of poverty. And that doesn't just mean literal poverty like having no money or comfort. It also means emptiness. It means, the way we might say it in Hinduism, renunciation, letting go. The way we might say it in Buddhism, non-attachment, that opening one's hands. And when we let go of everything, everything becomes ours. And that infinite wealth of sacred presence begins to finally come into focus. And I think figures like Francis really bring something powerful to the Christian world many, many centuries ago. But again, as people like Richard Rohr would argue, mainstream Christian teaching is pulled far away from that by declaring the world a fallen order and certain kinds of people inferior to other kinds of people and so on. So I'm really caught by that connection that I want to explore with you tonight, that the only place we're going to find the true, the real, the holy, if you like that word, the sacred, the ultimate, is in this present moment, in the sounds in this room, in the energy coursing through our body. Why would not we also be an aspect of that incarnation? And so maybe that's what that little statue in the garden with the bird on his finger is really all about. So I couldn't bypass the alignment of this month's full moon Sangha with the Feast of St. Francis, especially on a beautiful night like tonight with the sky thundering and lightning.
Peter, can you do a real quick kind of check on your back of your microphone for me? There's lots of scratching.
Yeah, sure. You mean like it might be unplugged a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure. Let me, let's see. You're getting a signal, right? Yeah. Is that better? Okay. Okay, thank you. No, that's good. We don't want a scratchy guided meditation, do we? So I just want to leave you with a quick quote from Richard Rohr on this idea. He says, "There are not sacred and profane things, places, and moments. There are not sacred and profane things, places, and moments. There are only sacred and desecrated things, places, and moments. And it is we alone who desecrate them by our lack of insight and reverence." So that's a really good, simple summation of that Franciscan perspective. And I would argue that it aligns beautifully with the philosophy of Zhuangzi, who I just did a talk on the other day, the Taoist master, and the Tao Te Ching, and also Zen Buddhism, and the Advaita Vedanta perspective that I rattled off before. That idea that dividing the world up into sacred and profane things, that dualism is a misread. That instead, there are only sacred and desecrated things. And what desecrates some things? Our inattention. So it isn't that the thing itself is actually desecrated or fallen. It has become cut off from us because we have failed to remain mindful, insightful, and reverent. And how that's kind of moving through me tonight is that this is why we meditate. We meditate in order to deepen our insight and awaken our reverence, so that the things around us that we have forgotten about, the beauty, the mystery, the kindness, the things that have gone out of focus, suddenly by just becoming still, they pull back into sharper focus. We suddenly feel their presence. We feel our aliveness. We don't have to be told to wake up because we begin to embody the vibrancy of awakening. It wells up on its own. And that's the great insight of Advaita Vedanta, that we don't have to go seeking the truth or ultimate reality. It is what we are. And when we grow still enough, we are self-illuminating consciousness. So meditation is no big deal, right? It's just a simple thing of finally practicing being quiet long enough so that the essence of what we are looms into view from behind where it's been hiding, behind our inattention, behind our busyness, behind our egotism, behind our habitual attachment to our emotional and thought stream. So meditation works because it enhances our insight and reverence. And in a way, you could say that it thereby restores all of creation. Now, I'm going too far here in my word stream tonight to say that meditation repairs and restores everything back to Eden. But isn't the potential there to move a few clicks away from hell and a few clicks toward heaven, to borrow that, dualistic language again from the Christian tradition. So, it's been a long time since I meditated on a thundery night. This is going to be good. This is really good. I don't know where you are in your live streaming out there. I know there's folks all over the place, but here in Southern California, we're getting a pretty good show tonight. And one of the main techniques of meditation, or methods, is called Vipassana meditation. And it's often translated as insight meditation. It comes largely out of the Theravada Buddhist tradition. We're going to use a little bit of that in our meditation tonight, because Vipassana, or insight meditation, uses whatever is happening around us as a way of staying in the present moment. So every time you hear a thunderclap or the rumble of thunder, it brings you back here. It kind of pulls you out of your thought stream, which is always going into the future or into the past. And so use the sounds in the room, the ventilation system coming on and off, the sound of my voice, the sensations of your body, discomfort or comfort, tiredness or nervousness, every mental state, every sensory experience becomes an opportunity to come back to this present moment by simply witnessing those mental events, being present with them. That's the insight piece of insight meditation. But we're also going to pull from some other styles as well. So I'm going to sit down now. Not because I'm afraid of getting hit by lightning. I think we're okay. But I do want to sit down and begin to move through the second part of our hour now. And the second part of our hour is a conscious, deliberate slowing down. And it takes a few minutes to do it. So I'm going to make a few suggestions about posture. And all the suggestions that I give you are just that, suggestions. Feel free to adapt them to your comfort and your body. But I have a few ideas that I think make meditation a little easier, a little better, just make it work a little bit better. For example, it's really difficult to meditate laying flat on your back. You know why? Because you'll be sound asleep in no time. So sleep is great. People should get all the sleep they need, but we're here to do something a little different. So that's why we sit in a chair. And I would invite you to take anything out of your hands. If you're holding something in your hands, if you're taking notes, go ahead and set that aside for now so that your hands can be free and empty, and just let them rest in your lap any old way. And if you have your legs crossed, uncross your legs and plant your feet both flat on the ground. Kind of two parallel lines, feet up through the knees, the hips up to the shoulders, just two straight lines. I don't mean to be too rigid about this, but I find that it's helpful to be symmetrical, balanced, and let the body kind of come into a harmonious equilibrium. I also would invite you to scoot all the way back in the chair if you haven't already, so that you can feel the back of the chair on your back. It's fully supporting your back. Now, I invite you to close your eyes. If this is not comfortable for you, it's okay. Leave them open. But for most people, this is another helpful step to help us retreat a little bit from the sensory realm. And then the lightning flashes outside and won't be quite so distracting. Although if we get a really good one, we'll probably see it right through our eyelids. But for now, I invite you to close your eyes. And let's take 3 deep, deep breaths. Breathe in all the way to the belly, and then exhale. Again, in and out. One more real deep in-breath. And exhale. Simply allow yourself now to resume your normal breathing. And one last little posture adjustment. I invite you now to lift the very top of your head, the crown of your head, the top of your skull. Lift it just slightly toward the ceiling. Nothing too dramatic. Just a little bit of a lift, and at the same time, let your shoulders drop. So lifting the crown of the head gently toward the ceiling, letting the shoulders go limp and drop as low as they'll go. This posture is the posture I'd like to hold gently, without tension, for the duration of our meditation. This posture will prevent you from falling asleep. And the goal here is a kind of alert relaxation as the sound of the rain begins to come through the room. Peaceful, safe, warm, relaxed. And now let's move into a more specific process of releasing tension from our body and mind. I invite you to bring your attention to the area around your eyes, the muscles of your eyelids and upper forehead, and the muscles that move your eyes around. Notice how they feel as you bring your attention to this area of your upper face. Do they feel tired? Tense? Just notice whatever they're signaling to you without having an opinion about it. Just be aware. And then I invite you to release all that tiredness and tension around your eyes. Simply let it go. Feel it draining away like water draining down through the sand. So that now the muscles around your eyes are soft and relaxed and rested. And now I invite you to move your attention down to the muscles around your mouth, your lips, jaw, tongue, cheeks. These beautifully expressive muscles that signal our emotional state when we're not wearing a mask, and that drink water and eat food and laugh and smile and talk and sing and kiss. There's been a lot of busyness in these muscles today. Let's give them some time off. Feel all of the tiredness and tension draining away out of the muscles around your mouth, draining away like water into sand. Leaving now your entire face rested, softened, peaceful. And now I invite you to move your attention lower still into the area of your neck and shoulders. Here, these powerful muscles do a lot of heavy lifting, swinging that 10-pound head around all day. And we even, I think, hold a lot of our emotions in the muscles of our neck and shoulders, our grief, our anger, our sadness, our frustration. So now let's give them that same gift of opening. Allow all the tension and tiredness and grief and anger to drain away from the muscles of our neck and shoulders. Let it drain away like water into sand. Leaving our neck and shoulders relaxed, open, softening. And now I invite you to move your attention from your shoulders down both arms, through the biceps, across the elbow, through the forearms, through the wrists, and into the hands that are resting quietly in your lap. Bring your mind's eye to the area of your hands. Simply notice them. Thank them for the miraculous work they do. Feel the energy in the palm of your hands. Bring your attention to the center of the palms of both hands. How do they feel? Are they warm? Is there a subtle thrum, a vibration too faint to explicitly feel but still detectable? An aliveness, an energy. And when you begin to feel the energy in the palm of your hands, do you not also notice that it is not contained by the flesh of your hands, but extends beyond them, that there's a sphere of warmth and energy all around the area of your hands? And that with these experiences, we begin to amass empirical evidence, direct, authoritative, sensory evidence that what you and I call consciousness is not simply housed in the neurons or brain cells in the skull, but that consciousness is a name for that alive energy that animates all 100 trillion cells in our body, living and dying within weeks, in constant communication with each other, systems nested within systems, in a way conscious, not as in having thoughts, but in being aware. And we come to experience now that our consciousness is woven throughout the mind-body, not simply housed in what we normally call the mind. This will be useful information for us in a few moments when we move into our meditation. But for now, let's continue the releasing of today's tension, all the busyness, the fact that Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp wouldn't work for you all day, and all the political thinking that we're doing and the financial challenges that many of us have to navigate, and the complex social web we all move through, and family and health concerns, and all of the worry and anxiety around the COVID-19 pandemic and all the precautions we've had to take, and all the real grieving that so many of us have not even begun to acknowledge. Let's let all of that go tonight. Let it break free with each thunderclap and move loose of its moorings. Allow all of the remaining tension and worry and grief housed in all of the corners of our body. Let's let it all go now. Feel it all moving down through our chest, into our hips, through our thighs, across our knees, down our calves, through our ankles, and out through the bottoms of the soles of our feet. Feel it draining away like water into sand. As we release all of our tiredness and tension and pain out through the soles of our feet and into the ground beneath the floor of this room, into this sacred river valley, home to the Kumeyaay for 10,000 years. One can imagine them on a thunderstorm like tonight, climbing what we call Cowles Mountain, a sacred cathedral site for the Kumeyaay for millennia. And we gratefully share their land with them now. And now I invite you finally to join me in the meditation portion of our evening by bringing your attention now to your mind, to your thoughts. And let's briefly check our posture to see if we're still holding, sitting straight up, hands relaxed in our lap, lifting the crown of our head slightly upward, not straining, but slightly upward, and dropping our shoulders as low as they'll go. And just gently staying in this position as we now begin our meditation experience. I invite you to notice the sounds in the room, the rattling in the ventilation system above, the sound of air coming into the room and fans, the distant thunder, the little sounds that people sometimes make in the room. Whatever sounds you're listening to at home, if you're with us from home tonight, listen to those sounds. Let them come and go without resisting them, without grasping them. Simply let them pass by without an opinion, without a reaction. And in a minute or two or three, when we move into the silent portion of our meditation, your mind will begin to race away into the thought stream. Bring it back gently by using the sounds in the room, the ventilation system, the thunder. Let it bring you back to this eternal now moment. The sound of traffic on the freeway outside. And now bring your attention to your thoughts. For in a few minutes I will stop speaking, and you will no longer have the sound of my voice and my words to focus on. And so before we do that, a few more pieces to put together. Turn your attention now to the thoughts moving through your mind. Maybe a plan for the future, something else to add to your grocery list, a bill you forgot to pay, a friend that you've been meaning to call for a long time and there's a feeling of guilt or shame around that. All the little thoughts that come up. pleasure, pain, memory, future, anxiety, emotion. Simply witness them come and go with the same dispassion that you would view clouds blowing across the sky. When you watch a cloud blow across the sky, you don't have an opinion about it. It doesn't make you angry or happy. You don't own it. You don't try to stop it. You certainly don't try to cling on to it. You simply watch it. What if we could bring that same dispassionate disinterest to the way that we witness our own thoughts, our own reactions, our own anger, grief, and even joy, and certainly anxiety? What if we could witness these from a deeper, more still place? This is what Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita calls the inner witness. It's what someone like St. Francis would have called, quoting the Apostle Paul, the peace that surpasses all understanding. The mind and thoughts have to do with understanding. When you learn how to witness your thoughts, you have shifted your identification from the thoughts to the inner witness. Just another word for the nameless presence that we are. So as we prepare now in another minute to move into a time of silence, use the sounds in the room to stay present, because when I stop speaking, your mind will fall out of habit into the thought stream and be pulled along. And pretty soon you'll be far along in a story and you'll say, oh darn, I'm supposed to be meditating. Just smile and bring yourself back to this place, this time, this mind body, this room, these sounds. Keep breathing and simply practice becoming the witness of your thoughts as we now move into a time of silence. I invite you now to open your eyes and go ahead and move around. We've been holding still a long time. Flap your arms if you want to. And I want you to know it's okay if you didn't meditate perfectly. Because, it isn't like Olympic athletic event or a musical recital where you have to play all the notes correctly in the right order with the right dynamics and tone, tempo, and all of that. Oh, and make it beautiful and make me cry. And it isn't like an Olympic event on the uneven bars. It's nothing like that. It's like living your life, and it's never perfect, and you don't plan everything about a meditation session. You go into it with the best of intentions, and then what happens is what happens. And the mind runs away, and then you pull it back, and that's why they call it spiritual practice instead of spiritual perfection. But I'm convinced that what we just did is an ancient, universal, and integral part of how wise people all over the world, across all temporal and geographic and ideological borders, whether you call it contemplative prayer or meditation or fishing or whatever you call it, the names don't matter. It's about being still and present and being with yourself and letting whatever unfolds unfold. And I think maybe St. Francis sensed that best when he went into the woods, not so much in the church. I always think of that great line from one of my favorite guys, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "I like the silent church before the preaching better than any sermon." And as a guy who often speaks in churches on Sunday, ouch, but I agree with him completely. The silent church is the silent anything. It contains all of the sounds. They say the holy word of Sanskrit, Aum, those three sounds, ah, oo, The fourth sound is silence before you say Aum again. And the silence is the most important part. In the Quran, it lists 99 names of God: Allah the merciful, Allah the vengeful, Allah the loving, Allah the protector. But the mystics of Islam, the Sufis, say the truest name of Allah is the 100th name, which is silence. And in our attempt to fill the world with things and thoughts and ideas and solutions and cleverness and creativity and productivity, we, yang, we have forgotten the power of yin. And meditation is just such a beautiful affirmation of the essential somethingness of nothingness. And that's why it feels so strange to sit like that. It's socially awkward. We even have that phrase, awkward silence. And yet when we sit in meditation, we get a sense of an opportunity. And when I scooped that little mouse out of the pool this afternoon, right before I came over here, Lori and I were having some dinner, 4:30, because we're old and we eat dinner at 4:30. No, that's not true. Well, we are old, but we don't always eat at 4:30. But I had this gig tonight, so I'm like, I'll eat that. I'll just eat early today. And just some leftover spaghetti from last night. And we're in the kitchen, and where's Cooper? Because normally my dog, my terrier, would be with us, especially if there were meatballs warming up. And she looked out in the backyard, and there he was staring down into the pool with the intensity of a terrier on a prey, with his little terrier beard, kind of a wire terrier. He's adorable. But we couldn't see what he was looking at because, there's a wall on the couch and stuff. So we both go outside, and Lori goes, and there was a little mouse sitting on, that vacuum thing that goes to the pool, and then there's that hose. He was sitting up on the hose. So he'd apparently fallen in the pool and swam until he got to the hose, and then he was sitting up on it. And then he saw us, and he stood up on his hind legs, and he started going like this. It was the cutest thing. I'm almost going to cry sitting here talking about it. He's like, save me, save me. It was the most adorable. Now, if he was in my pantry, like, and eating the rice, I would probably have a different response. He's out in his element. Our house is right behind our house. There's this big open field. So this is his home. And he probably just wanted to drink because it's been a little warm. But he was in grave danger because Cooper, right? But Cooper would not swim. He's not like the labs that I've had who would have been in that pool instantly. Cooper's on the edge, running around the pool, running this way, running that way. So I'm like, Lori, get the dog. I'll get the pool net thing, and I'll scoop that little mouse out. And before I could get to him, he dove off of that hose, and he was swimming, doing his little dog paddle. I don't know where, because it's just sheer walls. And I scooped him out, and I set him over in the backyard. And no, I'm not claiming hero status tonight for rescuing a mouse, but it's just one of those little moments where it hits you. The universal incarnation. A little delightfully sweet, harmless, conscious, sentient being just trying to make it through life in San Diego like everybody else here. Think about how mice have it. I mean, Lori and I were talking about it later. They're on the bottom of the food chain. Everything eats mice except other mice, I suppose. Maybe not even them are immune from them. But the snakes eat them, the owls eat them, the crows eat them, the ravens eat them, the hawks eat them, coyotes eat them, the foxes eat them. I mean, it's just murder out there. I mean, I guess if you're a mouse, you have like 40 babies and 2 make it. And the purpose of your species is to feed 20 other species. And it's not fair, but there's a certain beauty in that little brown, fuzzy body that is beyond words. There's a certain perfection. And I think of that Richard Rohr line that there is nothing sacred and profane in the world. There is just sacred and desecrated. And the way the sacred things get desecrated is because we stop paying attention to them. We don't see them. We fall asleep. We forget. We become unconscious. And we lose our sense of reverence, our sense of holiness. And then once in a while, a mouse jumps into your pool and shakes you awake at the perfection of the world and how infinitely grateful we are to be alive just for these few short years, to even be a part of any of it. And I feel that when we meditate, we consciously enter into that space of awareness, of reverence, not of anything or name or idea or doctrine, no loyalty to traditions here, no worldview to proclaim from the mountaintops, just the simple, essential next breath and the nameless presence and holiness in all forms and within us. What better way to touch down into that than to grow silent, than to grow still, than to sit in that infinite spaciousness that we are beyond all of the ideas. So I thank you for joining me tonight for Full Moon Sangha. What a perfect soundtrack. For those of us in the room here, that was a really once-in-a-lifetime Sangha soundtrack. Some great rain, some great thunder, some flashes of light. I just got to say amen. So good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. See you on the other side.